Thanks, Luke, and the Net Media Planet team, of course, for the invite as well. 1 + 3 = 5. It was actually our chief exec who came up with that title, so I wouldn't want you to think that we can't add up properly. Just make that very clear now. That's first-party data plus third-party. Before, combine first and third-party data for relevant, effective digital advertising. The title before went on for lines and lines and lines. Luke fell asleep when I was first telling him about the title. So the chief exec said, look, you've got to shorten it down. But I just wanted to make it clear we can add up at eXcelate. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, mate. Is everyone familiar with eXcelate? Just raise your hands if you're familiar. Okay, I'll give you the quick 2 minutes overview in that case. Our objective, and this is what we're trying to do as a business, is to make digital experiences more relevant for consumers and therefore, of course, more effective for you as marketers. The way in which we do this is the collection of third-party data from thousands of different publishers, first-party data from many different advertisers as well. And we ingest, we manage, we segment, we analyze, we validate that data, and we distribute it to online advertising platforms, 125 plus, in fact, online advertising platforms, including DBM, of course, which Rick was just talking about. Those online advertising platforms include DSPs, other DMPs as well, ad networks, exchanges, video networks, and so on and so forth. So we're pushing an awful lot of data out there, 1 billion plus users globally, with 1 trillion different data points. And then importantly, of course, our client services teams work with agencies such as Net Media Planet to ensure that advertisers are using the right data for the right campaigns to meet their objectives. Of course, we can license our software that we've utilised, we've built since 2007, in fact, to make use of all of those techniques and skills and experience in a first-party data environment. What's quite interesting to me now is we finally have the ability to take. I'm going to cast your minds back, if you will, to your university days. That may be quite recent. It may be a few years ago. You'll hopefully recall the phrase integrated marketing communications. We've had a couple of quotes from some bigwigs. This is one that I like. This is the definition of IMC. Carefully integrating and coordinating the company's many communication channels to deliver a clear, consistent and compelling message about an organisation and its products. Can anyone remember from their university days, their marketing degrees, perhaps their marketing master's degrees, who said that? Who's coined this phrase and penned it? It was a doyen of marketing academia in the 90s. No? Okay, cool. It's Kotler. Ringing any bells? Yeah, there's a few nods. Thank God for that. Jesus. I thought, okay, good. So these are genuinely exciting times, and I think there's going to be a little bit of crossover between what I'm saying and what Rick is saying, and hopefully that means that we're both right in some respects. The fusion of technology and data and media and very much tried and tested methodologies from literally decades of offline data-driven marketing. You can now do that in online as well, and you can combine the two, which finally means that integrated marketing communications is possible, utilising a variety of different platforms, of course. It is, you know, whatever the composition of your tech stack. That Gartner diagram, wowzers. That's another one. I don't know if you recall the Lumascape, but yeah, that's even worse, isn't it? It's it's a bit painful to look at. I'll give you a big headache. Anyway, so whatever the composition of your tech, whatever the composition of the suppliers and so on that you're working with, data is the fuel that drives, that runs the engine that drives the car. It is all about the data, but big data is, you know, I think that kind of debate, that terminology has moved on. It's less relevant now. because it's a lot of noise. There's an awful lot of noise out there, and it's very challenging to make sense of that, and challenging to take action, an action that leads to business success as a result of this noise from big data. So we talk about smart data within big data, of course, and smart data is about identifying the signals within a mass of data. And those smart signals and smart data that's relevant to you as a marketer, and of course relevant to your customers as consumers. I think smart data is importantly, it's about the utilization of first-party data, which I think everybody is familiar with, and third-party data assets as well. Throughout the sales funnel, the customer journey, or the customer the customer data life cycle. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the customer data life cycle and how we're viewing that. This is the terminology that we're using ourselves. Hopefully you'll recognise some of this. You may have different terminology, but take what you will from this. The first stage, of course, is to identify your customers. I'm sure everybody in this room can recognise a customer when they visit your web properties. You can utilise third-party data, indeed second-party data as well. There's a couple of different definitions around that, but the one that we take as written is second-party data is when you've shown an ad impression to somebody. You can record that impression being shown and, of course, make use of that second-party data. But the utilisation of third-party data in conjunction with first-party data helps you identify additional valuable activity or attributes. So a straightforward example of this would be within financial services. They would be very interested to know if one of their customers had been looking at cars for sale online. That's the type of third-party data that you can overlay with first-party data. You can also bring in, of course, historic ECRM, open and click activity to a web visitor in real time, so long as you're all neatly synced with your CRM systems and CMS systems as well. The effective management of first-party data from multiple channels allows this identification of smart data signals. So moving on to modelling and prospecting, which I think I'd put cross and upsell within this as well. Modelling and segmenting, which is something that Rick touched on as well, allows you to prospect effectively to your existing customers for cross-sell. But importantly, scale and reach is provided by third-party data in terms of providing you with a prospect pool, a universe within which you can utilise your first-party data, model out and prospect into third-party audiences. The message, of course, is particularly important and performs effectively with the mobilisation of data across multiple channels. And those channels, of course, include programmatic display, but also increasingly mobile, video, CMS and your eCRM channels as well. Taking action, mobilising data across multiple channels is absolutely fundamental to business success. There's a lot of analytics, there's a lot of modelling, there's a lot of segmenting, but you need to be able to take action within the messaging to your consumers across multiple channels. Unfortunately, technology exists not just from us, but from others to allow you to do this. Of course, the final stage, conversion. The measurement of conversion and the utilisation, of course, of first-party data that's created during that conversion leads us back to the first stage of the cycle. It's very much a continuous workflow for you guys, and it represents the ongoing conversation that you can have with your customers and with your prospects by combining first-party data, third-party data across multiple different sources. So, why is the customer data lifecycle important? This is a question of a conversation with your customers, with your prospects. and you need to own that conversation. It's extremely important because the largest brands and portals and apps and search engines, some of whom are sitting with us here today, they also own very valuable data about your customers and your prospects. And they're very happy to lead that conversation. It's incredibly important that you harness the value of your own first-party data assets to have a productive conversation from the beginning of that conversation to a full purchase journey. A closed ecosystem or a walled garden can create a gate between you as a marketer and the consumer. And we think that this battle over consumer identity will only escalate. The leading technology players are going to assume a greater role in media, and the media conglomerates, in turn, will aggressively adopt these new technologies in the pursuit of more consumer data, more data on your customers. As a result, marketers will increasingly encounter partners more interested in dictating rather than negotiating the terms of engagement. So we think it's very, very important that you harness the power of your first-party data and take control back of the conversation. A little bit to put this into a slightly different graphic illustration of what we're talking about here. You can pull through data from a variety of different areas, different channels, different devices and so on. CRM data, mobile, web, email, video. To be honest, we haven't actually utilised any call centre data yet. But technically it's possible. You could bring it into play if you want. Of course, the first stage is to manage that data through an effective technology platform or combination of platforms. The modelling aspect, I think I've got a slide in a moment on this. I really don't think we should be scared of modelling and analytics. It's extremely important, and I'll cover that off in a moment or two. Mobilisation, I think we've covered off as well, and measurement in terms of what happens next and understanding those conversions and bringing that back through. Mobilisation of data can take place now, so long as you're integrating your technology effectively, and Net Media Planet and others, I'm sure, can help you do this, whether that's your content management systems, your personalisation engines, DSPs, other DMPs, indeed mobile, and so on. To touch a little on the modelling points, I think a good example of the utilisation of first-party data on existing customers. If you, let's say, for example, you have 10 million people who are coming to your website on a monthly basis. You may have 4 million who are engaging fully and having a good old look around, and then of course a certain percentage they're actually converting, that are your customers who are coming on. Through the utilisation of first and third party data, you can start to model and predict from that 10 million who are coming in the first place, those that are most likely to convert to be your customers online. According to the scorecard of the model that's created, you can of course adjust your CMS, your personalization engine, and so on to drive improved conversion. But because you don't know these users yet, you don't know these potential customers, you need to utilize third-party data in order to build up a good picture of those that are most likely to convert, and then adopt appropriate strategies to ensure that you do so. And of course, the circle continues. So, in terms of analysis and modelling, this is important because it provides you with more prospects. Your existing customers are always the first port of call. Your first-party data should always be your first port of call. But in terms of acquisition and acquiring new customers, high-performing prospects can be identified through modelling. One thing that you should definitely consider is the final point here is consistent cross-channel data. which allows consistent analysis, action, and measurement. So in more traditional CRM environments, there is a high degree of consistency and good depth and penetration of data which is utilised for data-driven techniques offline. More and more so, you can bring the same types of data sets, whether that is geo-demographic segmentations from CACI, Experian, people like that. You can bring them now into the digital space to help drive your targeting online. And having that consistency allows the models that you're building to be applied both online and offline. Now, of course, there's various challenges there, perhaps internally, in hooking that all together and ensuring that your marketing functions are working smoothly together. But that consistency of measurement and the ability to apply models, whatever the channel, online and offline, is extremely important. Of course, just a little touch on some results. Anonymised, unfortunately. I was sword fighting with my esteemed colleagues in the States to talk about some named results, but unfortunately that wasn't possible. The objective on this campaign was extremely straightforward and clear: to increase traffic and conversion for a car rental firm. So a straightforward, simple solution to utilise first-party data to identify a modelled audience across eXcelate third-party data assets and target within a display platform of choice. It wasn't DBM, I'm afraid, Rick, in this instance, but you could have done it within DBM. It would have been good. The outcome was straightforward: a 60% uplift in CTR. And an extremely important metric, of course, on conversion, a 23% reduction in conversion. So I hope that's a straightforward and a simple demonstration of how one can combine first and third-party data to deliver some success. Almost done. A couple of final points. Test. If you can find an equal environment within which you can test new tactics, of course one should do so as much as possible. And within that, I mean, it's quite difficult actually, because of integrations and so on, to test different platforms. But certainly when you're looking at different third-party data, there's a lot of vendors out there, and you should test everybody within a level playing field to make sure that you're maximising your opportunity as a business and utilising all third-party data assets that are available to you, not just us. There's plenty of other ones out there as well. I believe I've banged the modelling drum enough, so I'll move on from that. But actually, just to point out is, a model sometimes, people think, oh, it's a prediction. It's how likely somebody is to do something. Models are imperfect, but it's an imperfect world that we live in as well. And so long as the model is predicting a certain level of uplift, then one should utilise accordingly. References as well. This is I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, actually. And I think any vendor in any situation, digital marketing or otherwise, should be able to provide you guys, marketers, on request with plenty of references, and I don't mean happy clappy quotes on the website about that's not what I'm talking about. There should be customers that those vendors are working with who are perfectly happy to talk about the successes that they've had, the client service levels that they experience. So do ask for references. We do when we're employing people, and I think that's important from a vendor perspective as well. Negotiate as well, and Net Media Planet certainly good with this one. Appropriate commercial terms. We take the approach of flexibility. We want our data and our software to deliver uplift and return on investment, but do consider fixed fee commercial structures for data. Think if mobile phones now, we all pay, well, probably a fixed fee for our mobile phone contract on a monthly basis. Why? Because it gives us cost certainty. We know that we're going to get a bill at the end of the month for £50, £60, whatever it is. It's all packaged up within that. You know exactly where you are on a monthly basis, and there's normally no nasty surprises unless perhaps when you go on holiday and you forget to turn data roaming off and stuff like that. So do look to negotiate fixed fee structures, in particular around third-party data. I think that's good from a cost certainty perspective. Final 2 points is keep it simple. Keep it simple. This, you know, looking at that Gartner map, looking, you know, dare I care to remember at the Lumascape, it is a very, very complex landscape, but it doesn't need to be, because if you remain focused on your objectives and clear on what you are trying to achieve, keep it simple. Really, it can get a little bit overly complex, and it doesn't need to be. It's not what it's called. It's what you want to do. We have a huge amount of demand for people say we want a DMP. We need a DMP, and you know, obviously Google stepping into that space as well. And we look forward to that very much. But there's a huge amount of demand out there. But actually, it really isn't. You know, I don't like the terminology DMP. That's not what it's about. It's what you want to do as marketers in terms of your first-party data, in terms of second-party data and third-party data in different channels and different devices, and how you want to put it all together. That's what's important. There's enough acronyms, enough three-letter acronyms, I think, out there. So it really is not what it's called. It's what you want to do, and find a technology and a technology stack in combination that can deliver your objectives for business success. I'm not going to run through this. I'm sure that the presentation will be up online somewhere or other, so if you'd care to delve into what we look like as a business from a global perspective, of course there's some impressive numbers and that sort of thing up there. Do take a look. So I'll close it off with a quick thank you very much for listening.